In a studio that's in a basement comes the epic story of how two friends changed the future of the movie podcast game forever. The reviews are in. Boys Life magazine gives the High Sci podcast 4.5 acorns. The Daily Bugle says, these guys are super legit. And Pope Francis declares the podcast as life-affirming. From the kid who tried to get smart with David Spade and got fucking old.
You're still out! You're still bad!
And the guy who can name all four Baldwin brothers.
Alec, William, Daniel, and the baby boy, Stephen.
Live from the studio of his parents' basement. The Have You Seen It podcast.
Welcome back to the Have You Seen It podcast. My name is Mason Knight. Sitting across from me is the one, the only Cash Kraus.
Yes, good to be back.
Yes, it is.
Kind of our part two of a two-parter review series, kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. We've never kind of really done this, but we're
haven't.
bridging two
films.
Two films and two reviews. So this is our finale of our, I guess, our Citizen Kane journey. We did Citizen Kane last week. I have no idea what day when this comes out.
Thursday. Our throwback theater.
Gotta keep those days.
We do.
Gotta remember those days.
They all blend.
Yeah. And Citizen Kane, it was all right. You know,
yeah, it was all right. It was a
middle of the road.
Mediocre film.
Could improve.
Not very innovative.
On the technical aspects, could have done a little better, I thought.
Shoddy work.
That Orson Welles character, I don't think he's going to make it.
Not very talented.
I don't think he's going to go far in Hollywood.
Does not have a lucrative career at all.
No. So if you want to watch that, go back. I'm sure you've never heard a review of Citizen Kane before. Mm-hmm. We were the first to do it.
We were the first to do it, honestly. No, a little.
Go back, watch the tape. It is in black and white because it was
1942
when we filmed it.
We did.
Very early.
Only a year after the film came out, too. We were
the only one.
It.
Yeah, we were all on it.
We have aged very well since.
Oh, very gracefully. Very, like any Hollywood star. They age very gracefully.
Yes.
But now we are doing, the whole reason we did Citizen Kane, we didn't just randomly pick one of the greatest films of all time to review. We had a reason to do it.
We did. We are very organized and scheduled on this podcast.
We knew that Mank, the new David Fincher film biopic, was coming out. So we thought to get better reference of all of the, to get better reference of what happened behind the scenes, first we had to go back and watch
the actual film,
Citizen Kane, and that's what we did.
Which was fun, and I think, is a big reason why we do have our throwback theater. We kind of designate different days for different things. And for me, it was a fun experience. Like, I enjoy reviewing those older film, too.
Yeah.
Kind of see how film has evolved. Because, before this podcast, I had never really gone back and watched those super old silent films or films like Citizen Kane that were revolutionary, so.
Yeah, well, it definitely gave more weight, at least for me, when watching Mank.
Yes,
I could kind of see and pick things out and be like, oh, that's really cool. Like the guy telling him about the linear story writing. He's like, people just won't follow it.
They're not going to get it.
Look,
he was panicking. Yeah.
People don't pay their hard-earned 25 cents to go in the theater and think. He was freaking out. He's like, it's never been done before. I thought that was really cool to see because, now non-linear stories, near every film is a non-linear story.
Mank is literally a non-linear story. It jumps from
that's another
1934
thing. David
to
Fincher,
1940.
We know David Fincher, of course, Gone Girl, The Social Network, Fight Club, so many more. He's one of my favorites.
Zodiac, which is one of our favorites.
Zodiac, we fucking love. Yeah, his biopics are great.
They're awesome.
They're fucking amazing. But he's back for this one. He's back with his usual gang. Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails did the music for this. They worked together multiple times. Him and Atticus Ross. And for this, they used all instruments that were only from the period. Mm-hmm. So the sound design and the score, it really fucking takes you back. This film feels like it was pulled from a vault in the 1950s.
It does.
And then showed it's so down to the finest details. That's what David Fincher is so good. But it feels like Citizen Kane came out and then this came out a year later.
Yeah.
It's just so well done. Except for the actors.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman's not that old.
No, he's not.
He is old man.
Well, he was portraying a 43-year-old Mank in this film.
Yeah. Which, it makes sense to me. People looked a lot older.
Yeah.
At 43,
well,
you looked like
the life expectancy was so much younger.
And he was an alcoholic. I don't know.
Severe alcoholic. He died at 55 from alcoholism.
Died 11.
From alcohol problems.
Didn't say he died 11 years after?
11 years after, yeah.
After he won the Oscar? Yeah, so that tends to age you.
Yeah.
So
When
Gary
you have a
Oldman,
severe alcohol problem, yeah, it does.
and you're in the 50s. They don't know dietary restrictions.
Of course
When
not.
in the 50s,
Well,
everyone's
we had
eating
talked-
steak for
Yeah.
breakfast, lunch, dinner. A lot of red meat.
A lot of red meat.
A lot of red
Well,
meat.
we had talked about on Citizen Kane how Orson Welles had health problems too during this.
Yeah.
Drinking too much coffee. He'd have 30 or 40 cups a day.
Yeah, luckily
He
he was
literally had
young
caffeine
enough
poisoning.
to where his metabolism, but that caught up to him.
It did catch up to him.
But yeah, people had big appetites
Yeah.
back then. They could
did.
eat a ton.
And more power to him because, you look at some of the Brits, even just 20, 30 years ago during World War I, we've watched documentaries, even from Peter Jackson, where those guys were scrawny and small. So
Yeah.
I get it in the 40s while people eat while you can because
Oh, yeah.
food was not always readily
Well,
available.
That was the
Especially during the Second
boomer
War.
generation after that. Take all you can, leave nothing left.
That's why they love those buffets, man. That's the one thing with this pandemic that they just can't handle.
so
is
glad.
the Golden Corral
I
being
can't.
locked up.
I can't see myself going back to a buffet after this.
No.
I just can't.
I never went to a buffet to begin with.
Yeah,
Like, I
good
just-
on you.
yeah.
I mean, every once in a while, I'll go, but now I just can't imagine it. There's not enough restrictions.
There's
Not enough
not.
rules.
No.
Imagine back in
those
the
little kids with their grubby little hands
pre-COVID,
sticking
no
their-
one's wearing a mask.
Nope.
People aren't staying in when they're sick.
It's different times.
They're just just the sneeze guard. It's not helping.
It's not
People
helping
are getting
anyone.
under that
They
thing.
are.
Just to
Child
sneeze.
sneezes up into it,
Yeah, so I can't, especially Golden Corral. Oh my God, that makes me
Yes.
sick just to think about it.
There are horror stories associated with Golden Corral.
There is
allegedly.
Many, not allegedly, there's videos
Well,
on
you
YouTube
know.
of them storing meat by the dumpster, and it's disgusting.
Right.
Has
No,
not-
I'm just covering our asses. No liability, no lawsuits.
You're right, those Golden Corral
cannot
lawyers.
afford- yeah.
No one is more vicious
Than Golden
because
Corral.
they are constantly in litigation
They
from
are,
suing
absolutely.
people. Because a lot of people getting sick, I assume, coming from the Golden Corral.
Yeah.
So they
You
are
thought the Chipotle scandal was bad? You can go check out a Golden Corral.
try some dumpster meat.
Yeah.
Delicious
I've
dumpster.
heard it's pretty delicious.
Very tender.
Yes.
Out in the sun, it tenders it up. But yeah, back to Mank.
Yes.
I want to go back and talk about just the technical aspect because
Mm-hmm.
Fincher did such a good job of making this feel like, one, it was written by, it made it feel like it was written by Herman Mankiewicz. Just the writing. I mean, I don't know. I have to assume if you're like a Hollywood historian, especially a golden age Hollywood historian, this film was like a wet dream for you.
Yeah.
Because you're getting so many famous writers of that time, and me or you, let's not kid ourselves, we're not historians.
No, we're not.
So but you could tell all these people were very famous people for the time, especially when they're
Very influential, too.
yeah, especially when they're in the writing room a lot of the time, and they're going back and forth. All these people are like, top of their time writers, screenwriters. But yeah, I didn't know most of them. I had to, but yeah, all of them have done phenomenal things. But yeah, it's written very quick. Herman Mankiewicz, what I hear is he was again ahead of his time. His dialogue was very witty, very snappy, and you see that how he acts.
Oh,
How Gary
absolutely.
Oldman acts.
Yeah.
He even talks about he always has to be the smartest guy in the room, and sometimes that backfires in his face.
I'd say more than sometimes. There are some.
Actually, you could say it may have ruined his career.
It may have in a lot of aspects. Did you know that this screenplay was actually written by David Fincher's
course,
father, Jack Fincher, back in the 90s? So this screenplay has been readily available for almost 30 years.
Yeah, well, David Fincher was going to write it right after The Game in 1997, or before that even, but that was going to be his next project. But no studio would back him because he had to do him in black and white. And that's what I love about David Fincher is I think he's as close as you get to a Stanley Kubrick these days. Because if he can't have one aspect in this film, he'll say, scrap it.
Yeah. Well, the thing with David Fincher, too, is like he will take long periods in between his films, too, to make sure that he gets exactly what he wants.
And if you're a David Fincher fan, it fucking hurts.
It does, but I do appreciate that he doesn't settle for less either.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you think Quentin Tarantino doing one every 3 years hurts? fucking Fincher, he'll do one every 6 to 7 years.
Yeah. This was 6 years. This was actually the longest gap in his career since Gone Girl to this.
Gone Girl got a ton of Oscar nominations. I think it won an Oscar for So
based on the book.
Yep,
correct.
Yeah, absolutely. But you would think, he would pick up a movie immediately, But I love that he's willing to take his time on this, and he's not afraid to team up with a streaming service either,
No.
It doesn't. He just wants to make his movie how he makes it. I don't think he really cares too much how it's presented. Although this doesn't have any special effects or anything, but I think I would have liked to see it on the big screen, just because it would have made you feel like you're seeing a film that was done on film.
Absolutely.
And they even had the little reel change black
They did
dot.
the black dots.
So
I noticed that
good,
throughout
man.
the right corner.
And the sound design, again, it made it feel like it was all analog. So you can hear you can hear a little fuzz, a little warmth around the sound.
They recorded everything on one track, which is different. Normally
it's
you'll
so
have multiple
nice.
tracks.
It's so nice.
Everything was in one track overlay.
Yeah, and it's just super pleasing, especially if you grew up anytime, more than 10 years ago. You grew up with film and you grew up with seeing the black reel change, the dot and stuff. And it's only on there for a split second, he's very subtle with these things.
Yes.
Very subtle.
And it's not like it's every scene, every 30 seconds. It is placed there in the appropriate time.
Yeah, like halfway through. That's usually when they'd have to change the reel out. But yeah, I love it, man. I love that he was willing to do that and willing to wait. He waited 23 years for them to.
It's a long time.
His dad died before he could write it. Even that's how fucking stubborn he was. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Well, when we talk about David Fincher and how technical he is, there was a story on set with Amanda Seyfried, and I always say her name wrong. I think it's Seyfried.
It is Seyfried. That's the first time I think you got it right.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, I'm pretty proud of myself. But he had her in one specific scene.
She
where
plays Marion Davies.
She does.
The story, I had no idea I went into not knowing at all that this film would feature Marion Davies so much.
So prominently.
Yeah, I had no idea. She fucked Charlie Chaplin.
She did.
Lucky gal.
Swinging that cane around, just his hat on, is fucking swinging his dong
Little
with
Hitler
it.
stash.
They're going back and forth.
That's
like
the Tramp, man. He's cute.
It is fun.
He's cute.
He is cute. That Charlie Chaplin. But no, David Fincher had her do a scene that she didn't even have dialogue in. And the reports are over 200 times. It took a full week to just shoot this one specific scene.
Well, it's mixed, and it's usually mixed reports with that kind of thing because no one's on there really counting, especially actors. Because the scene is the scene when Herman Mankiewicz, Gary Oldman character, shows up at the Hearst mansion and he's drunk.
Yeah, the dinner scene.
That's the scene. He said they had to shoot 100 times. She said they had to shoot it 200 times.
Right. So you take the ground.
But regardless,
100 times. Yeah, even 100 times, you're like, geez.
Well, yeah, Gary Oldman said after a few times, he's like, there's a quote. He's like, we've done this fucking 100 times. And David Fincher just goes, good. We'll do it 101.
That is David Fincher, though, man.
That's David Fincher, and it's also very Kubrick, too, He that's the thing with filmmakers, it's not staged. So for a filmmaker to just say, okay, we got it, it's
good enough.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do when you got to go back in the editing room and being like, God, I just wish we had done it one time this way. Right. So why not do it 200 times?
Well, and that's the thing, too, with a film like this, where there is so much historical relevance towards this film, I think it is one of those things where you have to make sure that you get every detail right. And that's what David Fincher does so well, especially with these biographical films.
And not only that, it's like, you got to remember, this is like an homage and a satire all wrapped in one. So he was trying to make it like it was filmed like Citizen Kane as well. And Citizen Kane was filmed, very detailed oriented.
Yes.
That's what makes it so good. So he was trying to do all these different things. And I think it worked out for him.
Oh, so do I. I
the film
really
is
walked
beautiful.
away enjoying this.
I did too.
A lot of beautiful shots. I love the beach shot, which is a very simplistic shot, I guess. But I don't know. There was something about it being in black and white when they were on the beach that I really enjoyed. It was just a beautiful, beautiful shot. They shot this film too on a red camera, an 8K camera.
I know. And knowing that they would shoot it and then downgrade the footage later in post. So I like that.
There's no color.
Yeah, never. I like that too.
Never.
No option.
No matter what, it's just black and white.
This film should not have any color in it. It's supposed to feel like it was filmed in the 40s. So I can't imagine this film being shot in color. I can't imagine the studio exec that said, no, we can't make it unless it's shot in
Yeah.
color.
I like this.
No
yeah.
one complains about Citizen Kane being shot in black and white. No one says, man, that movie was pretty good. Wish it was in color. It might have been a little better. Yeah. No, because that adds to that film a ton, that black and white. But I'm glad he stuck to his guns with this. And the story was not what I was expected. I really thought the whole thing was going to be a battle between Orson Welles trying to buy out Herman Mankiewicz for his screenwriting credit. No, that was a very small part in it.
Yeah, well, it was less than 2 minutes.
But the whole main part was how, because it's not linear, it goes back and forth from like the 30s to the 40s when he's writing his first draft for Citizen Kane. But it goes and it shows you very cool, like a history lesson, how kind of the 1934 election was really what influenced Citizen Kane. And it's crazy because when you read about Citizen Kane and the trivia and stuff, it's all about Orson Welles. That's one thing. It's Orson Welles and his war with Hearst.
Yes.
Not at all. Not really. It's really was Mankiewicz's war with Hearst. He was the one writing it, and he's the one who had the real fucking problem with Hearst.
Yeah.
For forcing the studio to make the propaganda films and all that shit. So he was the one who had the real problem. Orson Welles, you read about Orson Welles, his dad was friends with William Randall Hearst. They were not on that bad of conditions until the movie came out. It was just Orson Welles who was willing to stick by Mankiewicz and make the film because he was so young and he really had nothing to lose. Hollywood-wise, Orson Welles didn't. He's 25.
You're young and ambitious.
Yeah, you could do anything. You could take on the richest man in America. Yeah. For better or worse.
That's ballsy.
But man, could you get a better guy to play William Randall
Tom
Hearst?
Clark was incredible.
Yes.
Absolutely
Tywin
incredible.
Lannister himself.
William Hearst.
That's what I'm saying.
sorry.
William Hearst. Yeah. Could you get a better character to play that kind of, he's basically the Tywin Lannister of the 1930s.
Unquestionably. And there's something
Love
about
him. Had no idea he was in that.
Yeah, there's something about him that he is just so captivating.
I just see him as a king. I always see him as a king now.
Well, I don't think you can have Charles Dance. Yes,
Charles Dance. When you roll up, when it first shows him too, and he's down like the ninth. I guess back then in the 30s, they would literally do like build railroad tracks.
So you could direct.
So you could get up and down. Yes. It's wild, dude. It's wild the reach these fucking studios had. And we talked about it a little during Citizen Kane, but they were literally influencing elections.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's propaganda films, like literal propaganda films.
And imagine that, dude. You're an artist, you're a screenwriter, and then someone comes to you and goes, you have to make this propaganda film. For not even that, but for a
candidate you don't even support.
Yeah. That's... I assume as an artist, that's the worst of the worst.
It's absolutely the worst. And you're put in this between a rock and a hard place too, because it's like, do I want to further my career? Do I want to direct film, or do I stand my ground and lose
never
my
write
career
again
forever?
Yeah.
And that's a tough dilemma to be in.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, for anyone who's put in that position,
it really is. You obviously, you have a voice that needs to be heard, but it has to be heard. You have to have a medium to do it. So you have to kind of play the game. But in this scenario, probably better if he not done it.
Well, but here's the thing.
Upton Sinclair, which was that was something I thought was super cool. It was like, man, this is like, it's a film, but you're also getting a lot of history through it.
A lot of context.
And that's what really happened. Yes. Upton Sinclair, the journalist of, he wrote The Jungle and whatnot, lost the fucking election. He says, and a lot of people say, because of these yellow journalism propaganda films. Wild.
Well, the thing is, there's this old expression in Hollywood where it's, you got to sell your soul.
Yeah.
And that is those defining moments in your career where you do, in fact, have to sell your soul. Yeah. You have to go against everything that you stand for.
Not worth it. I know. Not worth it.
Some people it's not worth it. To others it is. And that's where you find that. I want to talk about Tom Burke though, as Orson Welles. Wasn't prominently in the film, but
and we were wondering how it was going to work.
Oh my God, could you get a better voice?
That's what I was going to say. The look, he looks similar, but you couldn't get a guy, because David Fincher, he does not like doing makeup. Because he wants to show, and when you do heavy layers of makeup, because and it's true, you can't show as much emotion through makeup.
And he literally told Gary Oldman that, because Gary Oldman wanted to look just
Gary
like
Oldman
Mank.
always wants to be. He just wants to go full method.
He does,
which
it works for him.
But I'm guessing he did that before he knew he'd be doing 200 takes per scene, because doing that in full prosthetic, you probably want to go insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, the voice was spot on.
I mean, literally, I couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah, and you get to see him mad, which is very odd because, you know, Orson Welles, he always seemed to be this cool, calm, and collective kind of guy. You know, he was very smart. They call him in this, what do they call him? Kid genius.
Yeah.
Because he was so young and so prominent and whatever. But you get to see him angry at one point, and it's you know, you don't get to see the real, technically it's not the real Orson Welles, but what we assume would really have happened. But yeah, he gets pissed one time when throws the bottle of liquor that he brought for Mankiewicz to have. That was ended up being drugged,
Which is which is hilarious.
It was drugged to knock him out every time he drank it.
Which, not quite sure. Like it's
so shady.
Yeah, it is shady. It's such a weird thing too that he threw all the alcohol and was like, "You're an alcoholic," and it was like, well,
now of course he's
now
not
he
giving
is.
him what he wants. Yeah, exactly.
Because it's the whole credit issue.
Yeah, and that's a tough spot because it makes it seem like he just wanted full credit for it. But what I've read is that's really argued these days, because David Fincher's dad, he was basing this all off of an article from the 70s. It's called like Kane and Me or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. But then it was an article just shitting on Orson Welles, talking about how he just wanted full credit because it was his film. Really, now it's pretty heavily disputed. Orson Welles did offer him money, but we saw earlier that Mankiewicz, right at the start, said he didn't have to have credit.
Yeah.
But then he ended up wanting...
reneged on that deal.
But the real story I heard is Orson Welles was really scared that RKO was going to pull all his funding because his contract said he had to direct, write, and star, not co-write. So he was really scared that if he co-wrote it...
Especially with someone who was kind of blacklisted at the time.
Especially in the studios who would do anything to fuck you over.
Yes.
Especially a studio who was heavily against Orson Welles. You know, we saw the mayor, who's head of MGM, was best friends with fucking Hearst. Yep. So they were really trying, but I just read that it was because he just wanted to make sure that he still got paid.
Right.
And that they would try to screw him over. I don't know what happened to that. I don't know if he ended up getting paid or not. I think he still did. But that was the whole reason I heard is why he didn't want credit. And Mank did say at the start that he didn't need full credit for it, or didn't need it at all. But then he wrote, you know, a fucking masterpiece. Right. And everyone said this is the best shit you've ever... Which I understand, of course.
Of course, yeah, dude. When everyone's telling you it's the best work you've ever done, don't you want a little credit?
Especially when you're getting to a time to where
people are calling you the court jester.
And even he knows, he acknowledges at the end, Mank, which is so great. He goes, I'm just about only nerve. Because Orson Welles, do you still got the nerve for it? And he goes, I'm only nerve. So he knows he's getting to a time where everything he does is becoming riskier and riskier.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know how long he's going to last. And he was smart. It's the only Oscar he ever won.
Yep.
And Mankiewicz, he was a script doctor. So script doctors go in, fix scripts, and don't get credited at all. They get paid very good money.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they are getting paid to not be on the credit. So crazy enough, he was a script doctor for Wizard of Oz and so many other huge fucking
Isn't that
films.
wild?
Yeah.
And you would never know that.
No,
like,
yeah.
You know, at least in that time.
But there is one quote during, at the very beginning of Mank, Gary Oldman says, he says something like that Wizard of Oz film is going to tank MGM. That's before, I'm guessing, he went on and rewrote it. Yeah, but, you know, the biggest film of all time. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
They still play Wizard of Oz a lot more than they play Citizen and Kane these days.
I got a little trivia question for you, just out of curiosity.
Sure.
So Upton Sinclair was talking, and we could just barely kind of see him, you know, at one of his political rallies, is what I would call it, for that time period.
Yeah.
Right outside the theater. Do you know who that was? Do you know who played Upton Sinclair?
Oh, I do not.
Bill Nye, the science guy.
That's kind of cool. You know, he's very liberal, very progressive.
Yeah, exactly. It worked out.
He wasn't
perfect.
a journalist, but yeah, it does. Yeah, that's awesome. I love Bill Nye, the Science Guy. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And what was really? Did you know who gave Mankiewicz or who presented the Oscar?
It was his grandson.
I guess he's an actor. Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That Fincher would Fincher's, these little pieces you'd never know unless you purposely went out to look for him.
Exactly.
So, but it's just kind of for him, just nods like for him to, I guess, watch him being like, yeah, it's Mankiewicz' grandson. No one else knows, but I know. It's cool. It's super cool. He's putting in so many little tiny details like that throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't talk about, we got to talk about is the set design.
Absolutely.
We just got to talk about it. It looks fucking phenomenal. The set design, the wardrobe, the lighting. When they're in, like, when it first kind of introduces them, and they're like, they have to go in like the writer's room and pitch to a big, a very famous guy that I don't know the name because I'm not a historian, but they're pitching a movie and they're just kind of making it up on the spot. They're doing like the
impromptu
Frankenstein
kind of,
ripoff. Yeah, exactly. But just the lighting in that room was real hazy. They all got in there, picked a cigar out.
I know, he's like, help yourself.
Yeah, it was
there were some funny moments.
Yeah, it was real smoky. I love that kind of set design. It looks so good. But yeah, it looked like it was pulled right out of the 30s and the 40s. So fucking good.
When you kind of got an inside look on how Hollywood was back in the 30s and 40s too. That's something I appreciated about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It felt like you were getting in it, like literally an inside look, something that you wouldn't know about unless watching this film.
That's what I'm saying. It's an homage, a nod and a satire all at once, because it's showing you how dirty and gross Hollywood was, obviously, too, with, them being influencing elections and whatnot.
Absolutely.
And, just the way they talked about, like, when they're all those dinner parties.
The Nazis.
Exactly. They're like, they don't need to worry about the Nazis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just how out of touch those guys were. Like Mayer, head of MGM, the very, very famous guy. He made MGM, biggest studio ever. But, he always had to have his second-hand guy explain everything to him. Like, he would talk shit about concentration camps.
And then he would be like, what's a concentration camp? Yeah.
But I love seeing that, man. I love seeing that because, one, it kind of unveils that Hollywood is not just this liberal place. The people, the actors, the writers, they're liberal, but the people at the head of the studio, just like any company, very conservative because they're worried about their money. Yeah, and it's the same as it always is. It's the same. We just hear mostly from the liberal people because the more conservative people, they work in the shadows.
Behind the scenes. Yes. It's a lot more behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. And they're the ones, luckily it doesn't happen anymore, but they're the ones making people make the propaganda and all that shit. Yeah. But
well, propaganda is still being made, just in different ways these days.
Yeah, it's not being made like
it's not so much Hollywood, it's more, social media companies and whatnot.
Yeah, but it's not. If it was Hollywood, that's why it's so dangerous because these people make convincing films for a living.
Well, yeah.
So when you get a propaganda film any propaganda films, I don't know if I'd call it that. Yeah. What they made was a propaganda film. They hired actors to come out and act like real normal people on the street, like it was an expose.
Hey, can I get a quick word with you? In the 1940s, we got this camera set up.
I just want my job. Yeah. I'm not voting for that. And Upton Sinclair, what he got like 700,000 votes.
732,000 votes
for not being a politician at all in the 30s.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty impressive.
It is.
Fortunately, he never went on to run or do anything else again. Yeah, but he made a lot of books.
He did. This film was made for an estimated $20 to $30 million. It was released, obviously, in limited theaters back in November.
Yeah.
Made about $100,000, but only was released in less than 75 theaters around the globe.
20 to 30. Let's compare this to Hillbilly Elegy. 40 million. Right. What film looks better?
Oh, duh. With hands down, Mank looks a million times better.
What film is written better?
Mank.
What film is shot better?
Mank. Yeah, no, I'm not in debate.
The sound.
There.
I know. It's just, we were blown away by that 40 million.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that they spent that much on that
But
film.
This 20 to 30 million, this film looks like it was made for 50 million.
Yes, it
looks so fucking good.
I would not have been shocked if the budget was 60.
Yeah,
for this.
Honestly,
with all the set designs, the props,
the wardrobe, everything. And they had to get they were all kind of side characters, but they had to get so many actors and they had to hire people that still looked like the real people.
Right.
You know, I was going back and looking at, you know, all the people like those screenwriters that I don't know the name of, but going back and like he did Fincher and the wardrobe, they did a very good job without makeup making those people look, and that's just casting.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
You know, that's just really good casting, just casting people of doing, because you don't always have to have prosthetics. Prosthetics are really good now to where you can do it, but I think he's right. It does hide emotion under layers and layers of makeup. So I'm glad he didn't do that, but yeah. I think this could be Oscar contention.
Oh, absolutely.
I think at least best writing.
Yeah.
Which would be wild because it'd be an Oscar post-mortem for David Fincher's dad.
It would be.
Would be very cool if he won that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I wonder how often that happens. Probably not very often.
No, not very often.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you get awards. Heath Ledger got his Oscar.
That's right.
Post-mortem because of, it does happen, but it's sad, very sad when it happens. Because that means a death happened very recently. Well, kind of not for this because that was in 2003, but yeah. Yeah, it'd be cool.
It would be cool.
It'd be awesome, but who knows? They are allowing streaming into the Oscars this year with no...
Well, how could you not?
I know.
How could you not? You know?
With no regulation, though. So normally you can have it, a streaming, as long as it went to theaters, but this year it's no regulation.
It's beneficial for the film industry.
It's 1 year. You can go back.
Yes. But no, I just mean in continuing on. Like, why should a film be held out of an award, one of the biggest or the biggest awards of the year for film, just because it didn't hit the box office, just because it didn't hit
money?
Well, I'm tired of it.
Because Oscars are mostly a popularity contest.
Of course.
Very rarely does the best film win the Oscar. We've seen countless times
where that's not the case.
No, it's whoever put
it's
whoever put the most money in it. Weinstein was very good at getting mediocre films to Oscar contention because he had so much power. Yeah, but yeah, it's all about the moolah. But they're gonna have to change. You know, changes on the horizon.
Otherwise, they'll die.
Yeah, it's
like. And I mean
physically.
Metaphorically. I meant metaphorically.
But you're going after him.
No, absolutely not. No.
You're gonna have to go after Christopher Nolan because he is not happy.
No, he's pissed off about that. He's real pissed off about the
an
streaming.
avid.
And of course,
I would love to see David Fincher, Christopher Nolan have a debate. And
that'd be a great
debate.
And they do that with the Hollywood Reporter. Those round tables. Bring David Fincher. Yeah, absolutely. And Christopher Nolan.
And trick Christopher Nolan in doing it because
you're probably knowing. And then have a moderator between the two.
Yeah, we're going to have a ton of directors. It's not going to be
Christopher
just you.
Nolan would probably flip over the table, start beating the shit out of,
this interview better be shown on the big screen. Yeah, he's doing retakes. He's having them reset up for practical effects and whatnot. Yeah, but he's very upset.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He said HBO Max is the worst streaming service of all time.
Well, that's dumb. But here's the thing. Like, if theaters can survive this COVID-19 pandemic, I think this is good. I think overall, because, like, dude, I really don't think we should, and I'm not a financial whatever, but I really don't think we should decimate the theaters. Like, I am so excited for them to open back up, and I will go and support them.
Always be movie theaters. It might be in a different... it might be in a different package, how we receive it, but there will always be movie theaters. If this is going to happen where films are going to start going to streaming and theaters, then what we'll see is HBO will start opening up their own theaters. Netflix will start having Netflix theaters.
But that was made
Will you just be able to go
back in the day? Because Universal Studios and all them used to own their theaters.
That's Hollywood. That's film studios. HBO Max is not a film studio. They buy the rights from other studios.
Yes.
And then, but that's not film studios.
Yeah.
That'd be like Warner Brothers.
A little bit?
No. Because they have no say at all of how these movies get made. HBO Max doesn't.
They just buy the rights for them.
Yeah, after they're made. Yeah. They're just a streaming service. Yeah, they buy the rights. I guess if they started showing HBO Max, I mean, not HBO Max, but just HBO because they make their own movies in theaters, I guess that would be. But even then, most of the time, it's through an outside production company. Yeah. HBO doesn't have studios.
Right.
They don't have sound stages and stuff like that. They usually pay an outside and they just pay for the rights. But yeah, Netflix will do the same thing. That is what we'll start to see. If theaters completely go under, which is not, we'll always have movie theaters.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
There'll always be a want to go and see a movie in a theater. Unless 80-foot screens become accessible to everyone.
Yes.
And they just become dirt cheap. And like everyone's got one, which is what Christopher Nolan would want you to have.
Yeah.
But we're not all Christopher Nolan. We don't have Batman money, Chris.
No, we don't, Chris.
God damn.
On first
guy
name
does
basis,
not
no.
want anyone to see a movie, though.
No, he doesn't.
If he had it
Not
his way,
unless it's on the big
2020 would have not released a single film.
No, absolutely not. No.
No, not if he was running everything. But I love Christopher Nolan. He's one of the greatest directors.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And his films are specifically made for big screen. You got it. You got to see. I see it both ways. That's why I'd love a debate between the two, because I think they both bring really good points.
Yeah. All right. Well, you got anything else to add
all
on
I got.
Mank? Recommend it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I would definitely. I'm not gonna lie and say this is gonna be a film for everyone.
No. No. If you don't know the context or the history.
not for the average viewer, but if you even know, I mean, anything, any kind of movie history.
The thing is,
it's
you
very
just read
cool.
up a Wikipedia page real quick.
Yeah.
Read up like one page, and then you'll get all the context of the film.
And I mean, it's just cool to go back and see the history of it all. You know, if you have any interest in kind of that golden era of Hollywood, the good and the bad, then these are films, because the only way you can make a scathing film about Hollywood is if it's 80 years past. You never see people making Hollywood films or films about Hollywood that take place in 2003. No, because all those people, those execs are still around.
Yeah, like a little.
So it's got to be an 80-year window where people are like, all right, all these people are dead. I can shit on them now, without having repercussions.
You have the creative freedom.
But yeah, I'd recommend it. It's great. It's David Fincher film, so you know what you're getting out of it.
Absolutely. Alrighty, well, that is our review from Mank. If you guys like what you've seen here and you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification as we drop videos here every single day. If you'd like to find our podcast in audio format, you can find that on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher. Our social media pages, Have You Seen It podcast, and if you guys want some Have You Seen It merch, you can find that link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Mason Knight. That is Cash Krause, and until next time.
Bye.